The illustrious Jabba bids you welcome. I'm going to regret this.
I'm Pete Mitchell. He's Peyton Jones. And this is the Church Planter Podcast, brought to you by Church Planter Magazine.
Hey, Church Planter, this is Pete Mitchell.
And this is Peyton Jones.
Oh, I almost forgot. We're supposed to play a commercial, aren't we?
Yeah, do it.
Oh, okay, here we go.
Do it.
When I have a large project at home, sometimes it makes sense to do it by myself. At other times, I actually save money in the long term and have a much better solution if I use an expert. It's really not that much different with church planting. Church planners who focus on building their core team and actually planting the church and partner with portability experts like Portable Church Industries hit the ground running. Yes, you may have to raise more funds up front, but let me tell you something. If I could go back in a time machine and do one thing different in all the churches that I planted, I would go back and have invested that money in Portable Church and all of the super cool kit that they give you to make the volunteers and their lives much, much easier. Trust me, your volunteers will feel invested in, and they're going to give you more of what they got. And that time where people are setting up is going to be a time where it sets the atmosphere for you to thrive. If you're thinking about launching in the next 6 to 36 months, we encourage you to check them out at portablechurch.com.
I'd just like to point out that when you pay for a 30-second sponsorship, Peyton always gives you a minute 10.
You get so much more.
You do.
Church
You really
Planter
do.
Magazine.
I'm just saying.
And it's like it wasn't scripted at all.
It's like it. Kind of. No, not even remotely. So yeah. I know on this episode of the Church Planter Podcast, we're going to be talking a little bit of Star Wars. If you're
No. This is the annual. Now that there's a Star Wars movie every year, Pete and I have done it's become now an annual Star Wars episode. This is that episode. There will be no talk of church planting on this episode.
Yeah, if you're looking for church planting goodness, unfortunately, there's not any on this one. We're going to dive into Star Wars. I don't even know that we can make an hour talk out of it.
Oh, yes, we can. Listen, after I got home, I did a tirade of the equivalent of your mama one-liner tags for this movie.
I will say this. Your comment in our prayer to God before we started the podcast was comical, because at the end of the prayer and you go, and God, please help them get something out of our podcast because they sure didn't get anything out of that Star Wars movie.
Yes, and by the time I was ending that prayer, it had reached a crescendo akin to yelling. So there is a little bit of passion in this episode. I'm just saying.
But before we get to that, we actually do have a couple of serious things to hit on. Mixed happiness and sadness all at the same time. Peyton, why don't you share that?
So this is reverse smack talk, and we figured the best way, and what I mean by reverse smack talk is normally we start off and we mess around. And then the rest of the podcast, we give you some church planning, goodness. But today's going to be the opposite. What we're going to do today is we're going to honor two men who walked with God, who went home this past week. And then we're going to just blow the rest of the time on Star Wars. And, but you'll thank us for it because we're going to save you like $15. And if you got a big family, potentially like $85, just depends.
And all the popcorn.
That's it. And I added tax in for you. I didn't count the condiments because I don't know. If you're church planners, you can't afford popcorn and soda at the movie theater. So don't worry about it. Pete, you haven't walked this road, obviously. You don't know the struggle. They can get popcorn or go to the movie.
What are you talking about?
Well, not Bible Inner Circle, guys. I mean, they can afford it all. They can look to the people next. Hey, you want some popcorn?
You know my story. I've been down that road before.
I know, I'm teasing.
I don't want to go down it again.
That's right. That's right. In fact, it made the man that you see today. So
I'm just more disappointed that I don't get to share gun news today because apparently
I know,
we don't get to
but
talk
you
about
can
that.
talk about what you picked up on the firearms of the characters in the movie.
Yeah, what they were
have
modeled
said something.
after. Yeah, that's actually how I look at movies now. I lean over to Jamie. I go, "Oh, he's doing a SIG. Oh, he's got a Glock."
So, first off, let me honor two men today. Number one, we lost Don Overstreet. Don Overstreet is not only a friend, he's a friend of this podcast. We've had he and his son on. I believe we've had Don on twice, right?
At least twice, maybe even 3 times. I'm not sure.
And I introduced him as the man I wanted to be
When
I grow up. And basically, you know, what I want to be when I grow up is someone who is dedicated to church planning, dedicated to investing in others, dedicated to serving church planners. Don Overstreet was a guy who did that. Now, he started off going to, at 18 years old, giving his life to mission, and he never looked back. He went as a missionary to St. Vincent in the Caribbean, and he basically planted a church there. And it now has planted about 6 or 7 other churches. It's massive. It's got a huge building now, but I mean, it was like they met in a chicken coop. They were telling all the stories at the funeral. And Don was, we called him the Don, you know, like the Godfather, like the Don of church planning, or we called him Don the Baptist because none of us were Baptists. And the way I got to know Don, 50 years, he mentors over 500 church planners, right? He came back, planted another church. His grandparents were Baptists that started off in Kansas. And as they moved west, they kept planting churches, which is kind of like the lay preacher Baptist method of church planting that Ed Stetzer talks about in planting missional churches and viral churches. There's a history there, and there was a legacy from the Overstreet family, and it's passed down to Kirk Overstreet as well. He's the son of Don, or Don Rides Again, or the second part of the O Street Boys. And basically, Don, man, I'm telling you, we went to this funeral. I told Kirk beforehand, I said, just make sure it's a big place because there are going to be a ton of people there. And there was a packed out room. It was set for Ukaipa. Don had really hooked up the biker church communities with support through North American Mission Board. He was all over LA. The last time I spent with Don was about 6 months ago, and we walked the streets of Skid Row. He was the guy that he listened to the heartbeat of the city, man. He knew the pulse of Los Angeles, and he had started a charity called LA Reaching LA. And it was basically about churches mobilizing them to reach Los Angeles to go into the poorest neighborhoods. He wrote multiple books. One is called Reaching the City. And in that book, he starts off talking about how he took a pastor to, you know, a neighborhood in LA, and the pastor just was unsettled. Like, I've been in no way equipped to minister in a neighborhood or community like this. And Don writes, sadly, this pastor's church was 1.5 miles away. Right. It was just, and so Don was very much like, he was that, like, you always wondered, like, how did you not die? Right. Because he looked like Bill Gates, as nerdy as all get out. I'll never forget the first time I met him. He confessedly said, I am a nerd. I am a total nerd. Guy was a book reading animal, super smart, but super down to earth, ate junk food like there was no tomorrow, survived a liver transplant, multiple bouts with cancer. And like I said, he has left a legacy of people. But the best legacy was when his family got up there and said, you guys all know Don, the gospel minister, the streetwalker, the you name it, you know, church planting mentor. What you don't know is Don the dad, Don the family man. And they just told story after story. And none of it was surprising, you know. His daughter did say, one thing you don't know is he could cuss with vigor.
Really?
And everyone started laughing. And then she goes, I can't tell you how many times I heard the word dadgummit growing up. which is kind of funny because the other day, Pete and I were trying to get this podcast off the ground on Friday, and my laptop was not doing it. And so I'm in my office right now, but Pete had to play me the calm down, ding, diddly, ding, diddly. They did the best, which is, what we like to call Baptist cussing. So
I remember watching a video right before we had him on the podcast, and it was a video of it could have been that island that you just mentioned that he planted a church. He was there somewhere down there in that area of the world, and he spent the night in a dude's cell who was being executed the next day. And they just spent the night praying and singing. And I was just like, dude, how crazy is that? Yeah. Like, he knows what's going to happen to him. The dude knows what's going to happen to him. And you're like, look, I'm just going to spend the night, with you. We're going to pray and we're going to sing. We're going to worship God all night long until your execution. I mean, that to me, I was like, I don't even know what to think, just wow. I don't know that I could do that,
Yeah. Well, you probably could.
I don't know. When I had my dog euthanized, I just had to leave. I
was going to say you saw Wind River.
Yeah.
You know what to do now. You got the skills.
But imagine, okay, look, if it's a friend, that's one thing. I mean, like a friend, but it's another one. It's like, dude, man, that's tough. Man, you know what's going to happen to that guy.
It was crazy too. Here's a funny little story about Don. He, when he was in St. Vincent, there was this lady that had all these kids, and she was like a single mom, and tongues wagged when he kind of got friendly, not friendly with her, but you know what I mean, like was inviting her over to the church. And anyways, her kids start coming to the church, and he goes and picks them up, and brings them back. And this is on a Caribbean island where, like I said, they're like meeting in a swept out, cleaned out chicken coop, outside in the chicken coop. That was all they had. And so, anyways, the kids stopped coming one week, and he goes over and says, "Hey, is everything okay? Like, you guys are here every week." And she said, "Well, the kids told me you're serving them Kool-Aid." And of course, the whole thing had this is like in the 70s. I think it was like 1977. The whole Jim Jones thing with the mass Kool-Aid forced suicide had just happened. The cult. Those of you that aren't old enough to know what I'm talking about, there was
read a history book.
Yeah, there was a cult massacre where Jim Jones proclaimed to be the Messiah, took them all down to Guyana and made them drink suicide. And so that hit the news. So he had to promise them no more Kool-Aid. I promise. No, I won't give them any more Kool-Aid. And so anyways, he stopped serving Kool-Aid. But anyways, all those kids, every single one of those kids, like 3 or 4 kids, is now in ministry.
Wow.
And the church, of course, exploded. But I'm telling you, what was more amazing than anything else was Don Overstreet's heart and tireless, unrelenting commitment to church planning. Don absolutely believed with all of his heart that the fastest way to get the gospel out was to plant churches.
Yeah.
The other thing about Don is something that, and this is kind of cool. This is really touching. Kirk went through Don's library, and the guy read probably about 10 to 15 books a month. But he had on his armchair Reaching the Unreached, and
that's because his trash was full. But don't take it.
You had to take that moment from me, didn't you?
I did.
But
I saw Wind River. I had to take the moment.
And but he was giving it out like crazy. And he was just so he was amazing. And Don Overstreet, and we'll probably post on the Church Planter Magazine Facebook. We got a video clip that is from the guy down in St. Vincent talking about Don and his legacy at the church that Don planted all those years ago. So anyways, we're going to shift gears from there, honor Don, and I want to talk about the second incredible man of God that went home, R.C. Sproul. Sproul as in soul, not sproul as in growl, as he used to say with a laugh. R.C. Sproul was hands down the number one Christian thinker of our generation. I say our generation because I came to know RC's writings, back in 1989. So what is that, like 30 years almost? And he is absolutely, he was unrelenting in his, excuse me, he was unrelenting in his approach to Reformed theology. Now, I don't always agree with everything that RC said, but I got to say, if there was ever a guy who unashamedly believed what he believed and didn't give a rip what you thought about it, it was R.C. Sproul. There's a great YouTube video clip of R.C. at a conference, and I went to many a Legionnaire conference in my day. I was a regular subscriber to Tape of the Month, Table Talk for years, and probably close to 15 years. Sorry, I'm sick. But what I do want to say is that there's a clip on YouTube of RC. Basically, he says something like, hey, he reads a question because he always did Q&As at his conference.
What's wrong with you people?
Oh, that's the best.
This is what's wrong with the church today. And then the glasses come down.
Yeah, Preacher Thug Life comes down and puts glasses on him. And it was basically somebody asking about, how can God be fair and, blah, blah, blah. And it was just great because what he does before he says that is he outlines how much God had to absolutely humble himself to save us when we were undeserving, rebellious creatures. And that's where he lets fly that. What's wrong with you people? And it was the second question.
Why is the punishment so harsh if he's loving? It's
it was something like that.
And he's like, what's wrong with you? A holy God and this creature that came from the dirt. He just.
Right.
Yeah.
And what's really cool was that he was, his thing wasn't necessarily, believe it or not, Reformed theology. That wasn't his passion. His passion was not that you believed in predestination or Calvinism. His passion was that people would know the holiness of God. And if you have never, I don't care if Chosen by God was a masterpiece he put together. But if you want to listen to something incredible that he wrote, or a series lecture, I think it's kind of like the definitive R.C. Sproul. It's a series called The Holiness of God. And if you really want to understand who R.C. Sproul was, pick that up. You could not, actually be an atheist. And, there was an atheist recently close to me who posted on, R.C. Sproul. And I had a phone. I actually let him know, hey, RC, because we had talked a lot about RC. And I said, hey, I just want to let you know, RC Sproul has gone home, this and that. And I'll read to you what he wrote. This was his tribute because he posted. He said, this is disappointing to me. My friends may be surprised to know I admired this guy, but that's because they confuse my atheism with God hating. The two concepts are diametrically opposed to each other, as you can't hate something that doesn't exist. However, to not understand the theology of the religion that is so intertwined in our culture is nothing short of willful ignorance. And if you want to learn, this is the guy to go to. So many Christians are a bunch of wishy-washy, babbling morons with no more understanding of their own faith than I have had in jet propulsion systems of the Starship Enterprise. But this guy was a great critical thinker. In my opinion, the last of an era. I always enjoyed listening to him break down the tenets of the faith, leaving me with that, well, no crap moment. He tied concepts together and then broke them apart again. So you could see that they've been consistently applied from one end of the Old Testament to the other end. Sheer brilliance. As an atheist, I have no substantial bit of evidence to support an afterlife existence. The best I can ever hope for is to leave my mark on the world and to create a legacy that lives on in the minds of those who survived me. And I think Sproul nailed that. That's from an atheist. Sproul was just an amazing thinker, an amazing witness. So anyways, with that, there's a lot more I can say, but what I will say is I learned a piper through Sproul. Sproul had a way of acquiring friends that were impacting. Same with Chuck Swindoll. Chuck Swindoll and he were nearly best friends. There's a lot you can read. I posted something about Sproul. Sproul started off ministering to college students. He was student ministry. That's why Legionnaires is primarily an educational ministry to the average Christian. So you could do far worse than getting involved with R.C. Sproul. I actually started, I would say, a lot of my theological training before I went to seminary. When I first went to Wales, I sat on a conveyor line in a factory with a headphone in, and believe it or not, a Sony Discman. Remember the Sony Discman, Pete?
That's old school.
That tells you how long ago that was. A Sony Discman and the CDs of the month. When I started doing factory work, man, I went blaze through those CDs. I had years worth of CD and tape of the month, and I listened to those nonstop. And I will tell you, to a big degree, R.C. Sproul laid a huge foundation of a love of God, a belief in the rationality of Christianity, and a commitment to the holiness of God. So I need to thank him for that. I'm done. Mic drop.
Well, before we move into our next segment of the podcast, I believe you have an appropriate sponsor.
Well, being that we are talking about movies today, this is very much appropriate. I have a sponsor. Here's the deal, guys. You could meet in the movie theater. Right now, if I were going to be meeting in a movie theater, I would be tempted to do some stuff around Star Wars, but I don't now know if I could bring myself to do it. Obviously, the struggle is real. I'm feeling it in my heart, but people are flocking. This was the second box office record, second biggest weekend ever. Everyone flocked to church. Matinees were packed out even. Theaters were absolutely packed to the gills of people wanting to come and see this movie. Where better to be than in a movie theater where the traffic is? After all, we talk about Paul going where the traffic was. Well, you can go to Regal Cinemas and find out how you can get your church to start meeting in the movie theater on a Sunday morning. They'll charge you rent, but you'll have access to the theater at a time right before people are going to be flooding in. So if you want to check that out, go to corporateboxoffice.com/theater. That's THEATRE-church.
I love their URL.
It's so easily communicated. It's a handle. It's so easy to grasp.
All right. It's now time.
What is thy bidding, my master?
That you burn that movie.
Okay, so let's recount a little story for you here. I went and saw it Thursday. I saw it again on Saturday. I had to take Luke. Thursday, I text to Peyton right before it starts. Ray gave birth to herself, which little did I know was going to be the best text I could ever give on Star Wars.
She almost did, though. I thought, okay, by the way, guys, there are massive spoilers.
Oh, yeah.
Do not.
We're saving you the money. We don't actually want you to go watch this horrid movie.
If you go watch it now, Rian Johnson, the director of this film, will think he did a great job. I read an article of him responding to the backlash, and he goes, well, 75% of my tweets, were actually positive. So I take it in a good way. There's always going to be haters. I'm thinking, no, it was your birthday yesterday. So people like me didn't want to trash you on your birthday. But there is a reckoning coming. Vengeance is mine. I won't blaspheme. Sorry. I better just leave this scripture out. Okay. I'm taking my church planner hat off now. I am just Peyton Jones, Star Wars fan of 40 years. This is the 40th year anniversary. How could you do this on our anniversary, baby? That's what I'm saying.
So Friday, Peyton texts me. No, he calls me, and he's like, how could you not call me? How could you not text me after you saw the movie?
I thought we were friends.
And all I could say to him was, Mama always said, if you don't have something nice to say, you don't say anything at all.
which made me excited because I think, ooh, I'm going to like this movie if Pete didn't like it.
And I even say that. I go, now you and I are totally different, so you might actually like it. It was so bad.
So bad.
So I actually found respect for Lucas that I thought had been gone since the original trilogy.
Oh yeah.
Your text after you saw it Sunday, I'm going to read this. This is what you texted me. What did they do? They made the prequels look like Oscar-winning masterpieces with this piece of crap. And I was just dying when I'm reading that. I'm like, wow, he nailed it in one sentence. You made the prequels look like good movies.
Man.
It was so bad on so many levels. On
like so many, dude.
Like, okay, besides the fact that the story wasn't even there, to me, okay, did we just decide that we're going to, like, take everything that we know about the Star Wars universe and just forget about it? Because let me start off at the very beginning. Okay, when the dreadnoughts or the dreadnoughts there and they're sending the bombers over it. Here was the problem with that whole scene for me. She can breathe in space.
Yeah.
They open the bomb bay doors and there's no like force field. She's just breathing.
Yeah, but like, did they decide to do that after she had passed away? Because she was like frozen.
Not her.
Oh.
No, I'm talking the bombing of the dreadnought.
Oh, right. Yes, I know. I was thinking the same thing.
And secondly, I'm like, there's no gravity in space.
Right.
You let the bombs go, they're going to float away. They're not going to go down. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
This is stupid. I was like, and then when she knocks the control button, you're like, she's kicking
Rian Johnson, science.
You have to be consistent, right? You can't just like all of a sudden, hey, they can roll down the window on the X-Wing and like yell at their buddy across the way. I was like, what? Okay, why didn't she just get back up and crawl up the ladder? Instead, she's like taking forever to kick this thing. Dude, you gotta drop the bombs. You get your butt up, you get up the ladder, you press the button. She couldn't. I was like, this doesn't even make any sense to me.
Right. If there's a hatch open, she's going to be floating around inside of it. She's not going to be able to kick the ladder to have, to make something fall as if zero gravity just ceased to exist.
She's laying on her back and it falls down beside her. And then all of a sudden she's on her stomach and she's caught in her hand. I'm like, she didn't flip at any point. There was no flipping.
So this was another problem is perspective. There were these creatures, which don't even get me started on the whole Rose Finn story arc that could have been completely chopped from the movie. We'll talk about that. But they have to insert this animal rights, compassion piece into the movie, which, hey, I'm all for animal rights, but keep it to a documentary about animal rights or a movie that's not called Star Wars, right? I don't need you to make your political statements in my Star Wars movie, right? Here's the deal. These creatures went from one shot to the next from being 6 foot tall to being 10 foot tall. And this is bugging the crap. Their heads became twice the size of my head to 4 times the size of my head, depending on what shot I'm looking at. Then Yoda's ears. Oh my gosh. Even my 8-year-old daughter noticed Yoda's ears kept changing size, shape, alignment. They were bent over permanent. Sometimes Yoda has the permanent bent in his ears in the concept art. These ears were not moving, but each time they showed a shot of him, one ear was super small, one ear was super big. Both ears were big in the next shot, and one was flopped over, one wasn't. I'm telling you, there was the laziest amount of editing and directing on this film I've just about ever seen.
Well, the best part to me with that whole Yoda thing, because you and I were talking and you said something about Yoda This is before you'd seen it, and I go, oh, wait till you see the scene with Yoda.
No, here's what you said. You go, oh, don't even get me. Because I said something about Yoda, not realizing he's in the film, and you go, oh, don't even get me started on Yoda. And when I'm watching Yoda, literally, it's supposed to be the moment where you're like, oh, like you're mystically, like you're going to float off into the air, and you're so excited that Yoda's here talking to Luke. And again, every line was poorly delivered, like Yoke turns around kind of like, oh, hey, Mark, like on the disaster, he turns around like, oh, hey, Yoda, like, are you kidding me? Like, just like, oh, hey, Yoda, you're here. And then Yoda, when they show this shot of him, I literally laughed out loud. And that was my testimony during this whole movie, is the guys next to me obviously were really into this film. And I could tell I was irritating them because I kept laughing at the wrong times. He looked like Buddha.
It was bad.
His CGI was so bad that it was like Yoda's fat cousin. It was like Yoda had become Buddha.
He's been eating a lot in the afterlife. He had another neck.
Not only that.
He had another neck.
I tell you, I will never walk into a Chinese restaurant and look at that shrine by the door on the counter the same ever again. Every time now, I'll think Star Wars. Thanks.
Well, and then all of a sudden, the dead Yoda brings down lightning to burn up the tree.
Right? Yeah, with his little finger. He just points with his finger.
He's dead. He's dead, everybody. Dead.
Right.
I was like, oh my gosh. And then I don't know if you noticed this.
As Barry said, though, Yoda went all Church Zero on the Jedi religion. And I'm not giving you a cha-ching for that. That was Barry.
Oh my gosh. Well, the thing is, I don't know if you noticed this, because I didn't notice it until the second time I saw Star Wars, when I saw it on Saturday, because I had to take Luke to go see it. He really wanted to see it. Now, in all fairness, it was way better the second time. I mean, way better. And it had probably something to do with the fact.
I heard that.
It probably had something to do with the fact that I slept 2 hours of it. So, I mean, it was a lot better. I woke up just in time for the very end of the movie.
The last 10 minutes are gold. They are gold. That was a great way. I will give them this. Okay, so
no. Before we go there, because I don't want to go there yet.
Okay.
I don't know if you noticed this. Maybe you did, because you pick up on this stuff. But Luke had already taken the books out of the tree and stuck them on the Falcon.
He did?
Yeah. I didn't notice it till the second time I watched it. At the end, Finn opens a drawer. There's the books. And he put something in there, took it out. It was when they're like leaving the salt planet. So I'm thinking, well, then what was the whole big hubbub about? I'm going to burn the tree. You knew you already took the books out and stuck them on the Falcon. That makes that whole scene even stupider. Like,
right.
What? And now Yoda burns up the tree. Did he not realize you taking him out? Were you trying to fool Yoda? What?
Oh, man, this is so good. I wish people could see your face right now. There were gesticulating hand motions, face turning beet red, veins popping out of the forehead.
I'm just like,
don't mess with the gospel and don't mess with Star Wars. Are you getting this?
Now, let's go around to Rose and Finn. What the heck?
Worst part of the movie. Rose was an unnecessary character.
Well, okay.
So was the chick with the purple hair.
Okay,
stick to Rose.
Wait a second here. Let me see if I can recap this. You, the mighty Empire, can't catch this ship because it's too light and too fast. Yet it can't seem to make any ground and get any further away from you.
Right.
Excuse me.
Oh,
Your TIE fighters? Apparently, you want to save manpower for the first time in the entire evil Empire First Order's history? Yeah. You keep sending your fighters after them. But wait, we can still get off and we can go hide in a spaceship that no one else will notice. I don't know why we don't just get everyone on escape pods and make them all leave.
Man,
because we can leave.
You said it before I had seen it, you go, the whole movie is a giant slow motion chase scene.
Yeah.
And that is so well put. That's exactly what it is. They're trying to get away. What amazed me?
Slow car speed chase. That's all it was.
And the Star Destroyers, by the way, don't know how to fire. They don't know how to fire on ships.
Oh, no,
they just sit there in the distance, just going whoop-a-doo. They don't fire. Like, Star Destroyers were terrifying in our day.
Hence
because
the
they
name
weren't the Death Star.
Star Destroyer.
Yeah, like, you don't mess with. Apparently, Rian Johnson thinks Star Destroyers are merely aircraft carriers for TIE fighters.
Apparently.
Yeah. They don't do anything other than send out TIE fighters.
Oh my gosh, dude. It was one colossal just, what is going on? The whole, we can leave, go to this other planet, and mind you, get back to you, but the Empire can't go about 500 feet to catch you. Yeah. Or the First Order. I'm like, this is, what?
Rian Johnson actually out Star Trek J.J. Abrams with this movie. Like, J.J. Abrams, fair play to him, he came in and he made a Star Wars movie as the Star Trek director. This guy came in and made a Star Trek movie out of a Star Wars film. Like that, really, that's how that. And I said, you know what, this guy, I went through a whole bunch of tweets. I said they were kind of like the equivalent of Your Mama. It was that film. Because I couldn't even, Pete. And I said that film may have successfully turned me into a Trekkie.
All I know is I honestly do not care about Episode 9 at all.
Oh, well, dude,
I don't care about the Han Solo movie. I don't care about a supposed Boba Fett movie. I don't care about any of them anymore. It literally ruined Star Wars for me, and I'm like, you're dead to me. You're dead to me.
Did you just call him Boba Fett? Is he Bubba now? Bubba?
Yeah, he's Bubba Fett. He ain't Boba. He Bubba.
Yeah, we're tight. So here's let me read you some of my tweets. That movie was the spark that will light the fire that brings Star Wars to an end. And I also put that movie was Bantha Poodoo. Just want to keep with the vocabulary. That movie answered no significant questions in the story, yet raised significant ones about the story of where Star Wars is going. The backhanded meta message of the film to 40-year fans, let go of the past and look to the future, quote, of the franchise. It's what you did with the present that concerns me. And by the way, that was the meta message. What he was telling the fans of 40 years was stop looking to the past. Look to the future now. We're taking it to the future. No, Star Wars was we cut our teeth on it. It was our toys. It was our movies. It defined our generation. We're not holding on to the past. We dig all the good stuff that comes out, like Rebels cartoon and Clone Wars. And hey, we'll embrace it if it's good. I embrace 7, but you made a crap film. You really trash. You had the opportunity to make the Empire Strikes Back of the new trilogy. It was all set up perfectly for you. We could have had reveals. We had no significant reveals. Literally nothing was revealed.
I don't believe Kylo Ren's on who Rey was.
Nope. He's lying.
I don't know that he was lying. I just don't know that he knew.
Yeah, he was manipulating her.
Yeah, he definitely was manipulating her. And
here's another one. If he keeps going like this, Last Jedi should be the last Star Wars. And then I put, that movie was our last hope. And then I quoted, no, there is another. I'm just hoping JJ brings it back, baby. That's all.
Look, here's the thing. Rogue One was an excellent movie. Excellent.
You know why? Because it was an adult Star Wars film. They made that for adults. That's why you liked it.
I liked it because it was good.
It was good. But it was age appropriate to you.
The fact that they had to go back and save Rogue One, they realized they'd done it wrong. They went back, did tons of reshoots before they released it. Remember all the stuff that they showed in the original trailer that wasn't in the final because they changed so much of the story. Did no one watch this movie before they released it? Did no one go, oh, we need to put... Sorry, guys, man. It's a cold day here on the Church Planter Podcast.
And we're a bit emotional. Let's be honest. We're emotional.
Did no one realize...
Rian, you've hurt us bad.
They needed to Rogue One that movie? They needed to go back and reshoot it? Oh, my gosh.
So here's the thing too, right? Like people were asking me, like, are you going to go see it a second time? It's better a second time. That is a very terrible antidote to what hurts me. Oh, it hurt really bad when you cut yourself. Just put a knife deeper in the wound.
Yeah.
Cut it again and it'll feel better.
Yeah.
The first cut won't hurt so bad.
I love how you get a little bit of a slur there and you kind of go in the childish voice. I love that.
Well, because I see this, I do see it. Someone called me old on Facebook. They made me the old guy who doesn't want the new ways. I do. I think 7 was amongst the top. I honestly think
good.
7.
It was good.
7 was like maybe one.
7 was worthy of the Star Wars name.
Not only worthy, but I actually put it up there with Empire. It delivered a powerful punch, didn't have wasted lines. And here's the thing. In this movie, there was so much wasted scenes. The sets were bland. There were wasted throwaway lines. My favorite being when the guy looks down, like when you first see the snow with footprints, he looks down, puts his finger in it, puts it to his mouth and goes, salt.
Yeah. I read one commentator.
Really? Is that the creative? That's the most creative way you can tell us this was made of? Just a guy putting it to his mouth, unknown character, and he goes, salt.
Some commentator goes,
I laughed.
Some commentator goes, thank you, guy, for testing it and telling us it was salt.
Did he?
Yeah.
So I wasn't the only one because I
no.
laughed out loud. I kept laughing out loud at parts because it was so ridiculous. I told you if I wasn't crying with disappointment, I was laughing with the absurdity of how bad it was.
Yeah.
Like it was just a bad movie.
One
that
thing
was
I've
one of
never-
my quotes was,
One thing I
Hey.
never understood in the Star Wars world, because I didn't understand it on Hoth, and I didn't understand it here with the Darth Death Star tech. You know, the big whatever they called it, the thing that was going to shoot the door on the planet. Why do you guys land that stuff so far away from where you're trying to get it to? I've never understood that. It's like you're coming down from space, just park it where you want and then blow the door up.
that's a good
It
point.
never made any sense to me. Even on Hoth, it never made sense to me. I didn't get it.
You know, the only part during that scene when Finn is racing towards the battering ram cannon, which is weird. That's just weird. But anyway, so he's racing towards the bed. They just happen to have one of those with them. They're like, oh, before they even get down there, they're like, hey, everybody, we got that. They ruined the AT-ATs, by the way. They were stupid. Hey, let's change those.
What did you not like about them? Just the way they looked?
Fat legs. Gave them fat legs.
Well, they did the fat legs that way they couldn't tie the cords around them and trip them.
Oh, well, to see if they had explained that. That'd be kind of, I mean, you could have had that dialogue. Someone saying,
Well, yeah, it probably would have been the same guy with the saying, dang it, if they hadn't given them fat legs, we could have put a cord around it. And
you would have had to run up to the AT-AT, though, touched it and stuck his finger in his mouth. Thick legs.
Or how about the scene when
He's now called Rebel Taster.
when
Rebel
Hux
Taster
is like,
guy.
I think you've done enough, and Kylo Ren like blows him, just force blows him away, and then the other guy's I'll lower you down right now. Remember that?
And Rian Johnson decides, hey, you know that Kylo Ren helmet? It's really dumb. He looks so cool when he doesn't have his helmet on. I'm going to have him in his very first scene smash his helmet to bits.
Right.
So we never have to go back to him being this Darth Vader-like character. Hey, great move. Because, none of us like Darth Vader in the helmet. We wish he was running around the whole movie as Egghead.
It was
That's
one
what
of the
he's called
coolest
by
helmets
fans.
ever. I loved Kylo Ren's helmet.
Absolutely. And the way he talked.
Yeah.
It just was like, it was kind of like watching a Metro man make a Star Wars film. A Metro, I'm sorry, I can't say it any other way. A Metro guy made a Star Wars film. It's like, I don't like that mask. It feels foreboding to me. It makes me uncomfortable. And I can't, Pete. I can't.
Yeah.
What
about Snoke?
Luke.
Snoke with the whole.
Snoke was rad in episode 7. In this, you know what he was like in this? He was like Gollum, the Mount Doom survivor. You threw him in the fire at the end of Lord of the Rings. You thought you killed him, but he came back all burnt up and with holes in him. And now he's like, yes, my precious. It was Gollum.
Yeah.
And in fact, wasn't it the same actor? Anthony Serkis, right? Isn't that his name? It was the same actor as Gollum. Like, Snoke was rad in episode 7.
Yeah.
In this one, he was like a dirty old man.
And then they kill him like that. Like,
yeah,
he's dead.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, he can sense Kylo Ren's every thought except while he's turning the lightsaber to face him. He didn't notice that either in the corner of his eye or feel it in the Force.
No, because he's like, see, he's turning the lightsaber to strike his true target. And that's why he's a
Sith Lord. He knows that at every opportunity his apprentice is trying to kill him, but didn't see that one coming.
Right. Yeah. And now he turns on his lightsaber. Yeah, and then what could have been cool was his guards, Snoke's guards.
Oh my gosh, wasted.
First of all, he's dead now. If I'm a guard and you kill my charge, dude, I'm getting the heck out of Dodge, man. I ain't dying with you. What are you,
Not
crazy?
Only that, who are these guys? These guys were tougher than the 2 most powerful Jedi in the world.
Right.
They were tougher. They almost didn't make it.
Yeah. Yeah. Stupid.
I mean, in the choreography of those fight scenes, here's what I felt about every fight scene and every single line of dialogue almost in the movie. Was it lacked punch. It lacked impact. So, for example, most of the lines were dumb. They were going for this emotional impact and completely deflected, missed. And then the action scenes, like, I don't think I've seen a fight scene in Star Wars so poorly choreographed. I'm even talking New Hope. Even in the New Hope, the scenes where stormtroopers are shooting and missing were still well done, right? The way that they were angled through hatches and shooting up across elevator shafts, and Luke swinging across, or Han Solo running after stormtroopers and the stormtroopers running back after him with him screaming down the corridor. They were, the way that the lightsaber, even though it wasn't very action packed, Darth Vader and Obi-Wan Kenobi fighting through that opening and Luke being a witness, and the stormtroopers sitting there and just staring in disbelief as they're watching Vader fight. There was just it was just well done. It was well crafted, these scenes. And in this, it just wasn't. Luke's thing where he wiped the dust off, that was rad. I got to say, we'll get to the end scene because I did appreciate that. Everything about that I liked.
I did to a degree.
But it needed to come way earlier in the movie. Luke,
they made Luke,
they
made Luke into a character that he was not.
Right.
I understand why Luke was like, or Mark Hamill was like, yeah, he did everything wrong with Luke. Because he did. Like, from the second Rey gives him the lightsaber and he throws it over his shoulder.
Right.
I was like, what?
Exactly. Every line that he had in that movie was misdirected.
Yeah.
It literally was like the thing that Luke would not say. And even Mark Hamill said, look, I played Luke. I think, kind of delivering on his character over the years, I think I know him better than anybody. I developed him on screen. So he kept saying, Luke wouldn't have done this. Luke wouldn't have acted this way. And what fascinated me was reading an article about Rian Johnson, that when he comes in, he says, I had to figure out what Luke was doing on that island and to get into his head, because Rian, that wasn't your job. Your job was not to get into his head. Your job was to talk to everyone else who wrote that and put him on that island in the very beginning and figure it out and continue the story.
Yeah.
We didn't need you putting your millennial spin on it. Sorry, millennials. I'm not against you.
Is he a millennial? I don't know who he is.
Yeah, no, he's not a millennial. He just, he made comments like this. PC is maybe the best way to put him. This is what he did. He decided. Now, I love the fact that Disney, and as a father of girls, I think it's male characters. Leia should have been our strong female character. We didn't need the throwaway commander coming in after her.
Don't even get me going on her. That was awful.
She was an absolute needless character. We did not need, in fact, Leia should have been the one to go down with the ship, right? That is what, if you know anything about naval history, Captain always goes down with the ship. We could have lost Leia in an honorable way where Leia sacrificed herself But hey, that's cool, Rian. You kept everyone who is dead alive and everyone who's alive dead. Cool.
Yeah, but
have fun with that in the third movie.
I don't think that they knew that she was going to die, right?
It doesn't matter. Leia literally, out of all the characters, I would easily have kept Han and Luke and lost Leia. Leia's not that big of a part of the story.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So anyways, here's the deal with the women thing. I'm all for having the lead characters in both Rogue One and 7 be women. I almost think Rey is cooler than Luke, right? There's just so much about Rey in 7 that she was such a rad character. I was like, I kind of like her better than Luke.
Certainly not in this one.
In 8, she's terrible. She hardly is even in the film in 8. And so here's the thing, but he made this comment recently when they give him the next trilogy he's creating, shudder. They said, cause they're giving him the next trilogy.
Next trilogy of
so
what?
He makes the comment
of what?
They're giving him the next Star Wars trilogy. Star Wars.
Why?
Disney's going to make yet another. Oh yeah. They're making another. And Rian Johnson, see, JJ will come back and close this one. And the role that JJ played, where he opens the first and produces the next, Rian says, we'll see exactly what happens. But yes, that will be the plan. They're handing me the Star Wars films. So he will take this. And what he has said is, I would love to see a woman director. Now, look, I don't care if we have a woman president, if she's the best person for the job. I don't care if we have a woman Star Wars director, if she is the best director for that picture. But when you start making statements like that you just think it would be neat to have a woman director, I think it would be neat to have a dwarf named Julio as the next director. It doesn't matter if they're under 4'10" or not. What matters is they're a good director. So right away it tells me that what he's going for is not a good Star Wars film.
Yeah.
He's got a whole other, like I said, he's throwing animal rights in there. I'm all for animal rights. I'm not an animal.
I didn't care about
guy.
the animal rights part. I really didn't.
But that whole story was so poorly done.
Well, you're right.
Because the side arc was so poorly done.
Oh, because we let them free on an island that they're going to be able to get them back in about 10 minutes. It was worth it. I'm like, no.
Yeah. He makes his point. He got all in that. He got animal rights. He got rich people are evil. Shout out to Bernie Sanders. He got,
and you can only make money off of war.
Oh, and making money off war. The war's all about making money. So those 3 things which by the way is not accurate. Hitler was not in it to make money, right? That's not why Hitler went to war. Kim Jong-un is not doing what he's doing because he wants to make a bunch of money doing it. Your worldview, sir, is not correct. And I love it when people that have these weird worldviews brush up against reality in history because it doesn't fit your theories. So all that kind of stuff to me is just because I'm a fan of history. I'm a student of, I read, it's just not true. It sounds great. It's wonderful in a soundbite, but it's not true.
Yeah. Okay. So the final scene with Luke Skywalker, I didn't realize it was a forced projection. I just kept thinking, did they not realize he had gray in his beard in the last scene and all of a sudden he doesn't? Like, right. I really, because the movie was so bad that by that point I was like, are you guys just that bad in making this?
Right. No, literally, Pete, I said it out loud and again irritated the people next to me. When he appears, he walks through the door and he appears to Leia. I literally said out loud, oh, he got a haircut. Because now his hair is not shaggy. It's short. Just like the scene when Kylo Ren collapses the wall on him at the Jedi Academy. And it was and he looks completely different in the face. Yeah. So I don't know.
And the beard was dark again. It was well trimmed.
Oh, that's what I said. I said to Andrew, I said, oh, he got a haircut and dyed his beard. I literally leaned over and said that. And this is the thing, is looking at all of these things, it was just lazy filmmaking.
Yeah.
It wasn't attention. Like you said, didn't anyone watch us? Kathleen Kennedy, are you listening to the Church Planner podcast right now?
I got a bad feeling about this.
Are you hearing me? Because I am a Star Wars fan. I'm not one of those Star Wars fans. You can't touch my precious baby. The people told me, oh, they throw you for a loop. Oh, I got to process this. Oh, there's a lot of twists. You know what the twists and turns were? Nothing important. No reveals. Nothing that like destroyed the Force or destroyed Star Wars lore. Like you actually did all these twists and turns that weren't important. You staged a coup that didn't matter. So you spent all that time staging a coup that just immediately turns around and was pointless. And my prediction, I'm going to end on this. My prediction is this movie, you could literally skip it from 7 to 9 and you won't miss a thing. You just won't have Snoke in it. You don't need that explained. Hey, he didn't explain Jack in this movie. So he's proven to us you don't need to explain stuff in the next film.
Unless Snoke is really alive, or that creature Sith that could keep coming back to life. That would be great for me. Bring him back.
Or Snoke was just a hologram projection the whole time. Just like Luke.
Yeah, but he wasn't.
He wasn't. No, Rian Johnson is not that clever.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, like, you could do that.
Yeah.
Luke did it.
I hated how they killed Luke. I really did. I did not like, he does this force projection and apparently that takes his life out of him.
Yeah, it drains him.
Why? Like that doesn't make any sense. Why?
I don't know why, but I was cool with that. I was like, you know what?
I wasn't because that's not the way that Luke would have gone out. Luke would have gone out fighting.
Except Luke did go out. Okay, think of it this way. It's like he went out like Obi-Wan. This is what I like.
But he didn't go out like Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan went out in a lightsaber battle.
Yeah.
Luke went out sitting on a rock. I'm sorry, dude. It's not even the same.
Well, you got a point there, but it still worked for me. And I liked how he's looking at the twin sons. That part was rad. Okay, that was an impactful moment.
At first, there was like a black mark over the sun. And I was like, is he seeing a spaceship coming up?
Yes. I thought the same thing.
And then you realize, no, he's seeing two suns. And I'm like, could you not fix that? Because it looks like a spaceship's coming up.
I thought the same thing. Like, oh, who's coming to see Luke right now?
Right.
The exact same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was all kinds of disappointing, my friend. And,
why didn't Chewbacca just eat the little creature in front of the other guys and be like, hey.
I dug that. Okay, so that was funny. That was really funny.
But he should have been like, arr. That would have made it better for me.
I did think he was going to eat it anyways. Chewbacca would have totally eaten it.
Eaten it. Yeah.
But he would have struggled with it. I got that, but then he would have eaten it. And I think that's what it is, my friend, is we've talked before that some of us are sea turtles and some of us are sharks. We can't have sea turtles direct Star Wars films. J.J. Abrams was a shark. He directed just a bad to the bone Star Wars film. Sharks need to be directors, not sea turtles. No more sea turtles directing my films.
I don't know where you came up with the sea turtle shark thing.
Remember when we talked about our spirit animals?
Oh, that's right.
And I go, I'm a sea turtle. And you go, I'm a shark. And you're like, that explains so much about me.
Didn't I say I was like a bear or something? I was like, no, I think I'm more of a bear.
You said you were a tiger or a lion or a shark or something like that.
Didn't that start some like weird thing? I don't know. I think it's.
Hey, yeah. I did interview a church planner today who told me, and I think this was a secret message to pass on to you. Mi dragón es muy rápido. He's on episode 110.
I got a bad feeling about this.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, the last 10 minutes were a decent film. So if you do buy a ticket because you just think the last 10 minutes, just wait. Time it right. Walk in the last 10 minutes, and you pretty much got all you need. Let me just sum it up. Slow space chase.
For
Leia
2
trying
hours.
to get away. Rey goes to the island, tries to get Luke. Luke, for about an hour and a half, says no. And then at the last minute turns up, and you can watch the last 10 minutes. And I just literally filled you in on everything you need to know before the last 10 minutes.
Great call with Leia out in space, right?
We didn't even talk about that.
All of a sudden, she's like, oh, wait a second, I ain't dead because I can roll the window down on my spaceship. Not a problem.
So she used a force field around herself in the forest to preserve herself, which is doable in the force.
No,
she
she didn't
create that.
She didn't. It showed her like basically dying and then, wait a second, I'm not dead. She didn't do the force.
She did it.
No, because then remember what happens? She sucks herself over to the door. And apparently the fact that whole bridge has been blown out to space doesn't matter because they can still open up the door, let her through, and no one else gets sucked out. Right. No air gets sucked.
Well, I think there was an airlock because there was, I think there was an airlock.
No, she went into the bridge.
Right.
She didn't go in through an airlock. There was no airlock. Watch how stupid it is. Again, it doesn't matter.
Like
Space
I said,
doesn't matter.
Like I said, science.
Yeah, space doesn't matter.
But hey, Pete, I got to go because, I don't have anyone to do my bookkeeping for me.
What?
No. But, Pete, if I did, it would save me so much more time to finish out this important annual episode of the Star Wars Church Planner podcast. What could I do differently for next year?
I think you need to go on over to simplifychurch.com.
What will they do, Pete?
Everything. Including making your Star Wars movie the way it should be made. That's what Simplify Church does.
And end of year tax receipts, which, by the way, is coming right up. If you don't know that, you got to give those to the IRS coming up in a month or two.
If you don't know that end of the year tax receipts are coming up, you really need simplifychurch.com.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, the IRS definitely wants you to.
The IRS frowns on you not turning in stuff like that.
Yeah, they need to track all that money. And you don't need to. So go to simplifychurch.com. And with that, guys, thanks for joining us for the annual Star Wars episode of the Church Planner Podcast with Pete Bubba Fett Mitchell and Peyton Jabba Homeboy Jones. And we will see you next week where we talk tons of smack talk and then we talk church planning.
I got a bad feeling about this.
Don't do that.
What is thy bidding, my master?
Thanks for joining us for another weekly episode of the Church Planner Podcast with Pete Mitchell and Peyton Jones. We'd love to hear your comments on this episode of the Church Planner Podcast. Visit us online and let us know what you thought at churchplannerpodcast.com. If you subscribe to us via iTunes and have enjoyed the podcast, leave us a positive review. The more positive reviews we receive in iTunes, the more iTunes will promote us to other church planners who would benefit from this show. This podcast is brought to you by the Church Planner Magazine, which is available in the iTunes newsstand or online via churchplannermagazine.com.